Okay, I'd just like to follow up with a question from an institutional contact who asked, Mr. LaRouche, this week, Russian President Putin gave his annual year-end press conference. In response to a question from Associated Press about Syria, President Putin delivered a sharp warning against any kind of replay of the disaster the U.S. and NATO wrought on Libya, leading ultimately to the killing of U.S. Ambassador Stevens and 3 others. What is your appraisal of President Putin's remarks and of the ongoing dispute in Washington over a Western military intervention in Syria to overthrow the Assad government?
Well, Putin has shown himself to be not an ignoramus, shall we say. He's a fighter. And he's caught onto the job, I think, with improvements gained from experience, including bad experience. And that's about the way it goes. Look, anyone, just think about it. Anyone who understands anything about the strategic situation over the period since World War II, and even before, but if they understand that, then they would be capable of dealing with the problem. The problem is most people in society are not capable of thinking clearly on these issues because they don't understand them. They've not been enabled to understand them. They're subjected to all kinds of misleading. And so what happens is in all warfare, major warfare, what rules the warfare for the majority of people is not the reason, it's the passion. Society operates in these matters on the basis of support of passion and the way passion is organized in a population. Only a tiny minority, a very tiny minority of the leadership in the United States, which that is actually capable of understanding these things. They can understand other things. And as I said on the previous question, they understand the passion, the issue of passion. They understand, they recognize something that they hate. And some people who not only hate it, but they have insight into what the issue is. It is that combination of a nation feeling itself in distress, a population feeling itself in distress, which finds itself confronted with something it cannot tolerate. And only those who have the qualities of leadership, who understand these things, are capable of effectively organizing. You can imagine the so-called, the kinds of things like the French Revolution. The French Revolution was a horror show. Because why? Because there was no leadership, or very little leadership. And it disintegrated. And that's why you got the French Revolution and the effects of it. And you had, of course, enough corruption in the whole process to help the process out. But it was that. You see, if you look at France after Napoleon Bonaparte, you see the same thing. You see a different kind of problem, but you also see some positive developments, changes in the character of the society. Not a very good record either. But that's the way this thing works. It works on the basis of passion. Now, if the passion is wrong, if the passion is wrongly directed, you're going to get a disaster. That's the risk of a government based on passion. If the issue of leadership is wrongly defined, then they'll probably create a crisis, a chaos, or something worse, a horror show. So it's only when there's a coincidence between passion which leads and requirements of the population that the factor of the population's motivation to respond can come out in the positive side. But you've got to understand that. You cannot try to assume that a population in general, a modern population in particular, understands history. This population today, the American population today, is probably has the least educated in terms of competence for a very long time. This generation, you wouldn't want to take the war. Our young people, You wouldn't want to take them to war. They're crazy. Most of them are leaning towards psychotic. And we produce that with the aid of drugs, legalization of drugs and things like that. We produced it. But this is the problem of history. When you're dealing with an issue like this, it is the way in which the passion is organized. And if you have people who are intelligent, they may not have everything right, but they can provide a leadership. And if they are the leadership, then the rest of the population may play a positive role. But the worst thing you have to fear is chaos, because chaos is a nightmare. And that could bring on thermonuclear war. It's all ready to go. But we've had a fortunate in the fact that Obama is now increasingly despised. He has only a small fraction of actual leadership around him, and they are beginning to turn against him. And you're seeing, first of all, the people who are the more courageous, who are the more better informed and more courageous, are actually leading the passion. They're leading the passion by reason. And the general population is coming to reason by the aid of mobilized passion.